waterboarding. They're talking about wakeboarding. The thing about wakeboarding, every trick is an invert.
Backside.
One side, air railings.
A new dimension.
Everybody is going huge.
What do you think about waterboarding? I said, I like it a lot. I don't think it's tough enough.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Grab Matters podcast. We got Guenther Oka on the pod today. Gunther, how you doing?
Dude, amazing. Thanks for coming.
Sick. So Gunther's a 24-year-old professional wakeboarder from Cincinnati, Ohio, and he's already known for being one of the best all-around riders to do it, killing it behind the boat, at the cable, and in the streets, with wins at Wake Park Worlds, on the Pro Wakeboard Tour, and a gold in the 2018 X Games Real Wake. Let's start off with an easy question. What's your favorite grab?
Favorite grab? Ooh, nose or tail? Just get me on the end of them.
Get the end of the rig? All right.
Yeah.
Boat, cable, or winch?
Man, this is a question that's like as old as time, I swear. I've been asked by so many people, and the answer always comes out the same. If it's like, I don't know if I can ever pick. It's kind of what I'm feeling at the moment, so I'll give it boat at the moment.
Sick. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that makes sense. Kind of whatever you're vibing with. Like if you're in a heavy cable phase, you can definitely pick that. But wake pants, yes or no?
Yeah, I'm down.
All right.
Yeah, I haven't like found the right pair for me yet, but I'm down.
Yeah, definitely down with the style.
Dude, the post that was going around earlier was killing me. Yeah.
Oh man. All right, let's kind of run it back from the top here. How you got started wakeboarding? I got a little bit on your history here, but I feel like you just kind of doing a quick summary of how you got started would be pretty cool.
Yeah, always the crash course is nice. I had two parents that loved water sports. My dad was like a professional show skier down here in SeaWorld in Florida, and then my mom just grew up on the lake with her family, water skiing, tubing, doing all sorts of lake activities. And when I was younger, my whole family, extended family, cousins and stuff, we all shared a smaller lake cottage, and it was at the lake every weekend in the summer, just tubing, goofing, swimming and stuff, and wakeboarding was just a part of it.
Sick. Where was that lake house?
It's called Williamstown in Kentucky. So I lived in Cincinnati, Ohio, so we drove an hour south to northern Kentucky where the lake was.
Okay, sick. And what kind of boat was that you were riding behind?
We actually never had a boat. My aunt had maybe like a 90 Pro Star, and then a really close family friend had a 93 Ski Nautique that he didn't have a place for, but we had the dock for it. So it was like, well, you can keep it at our place, use it whenever you want, and then we'll use it. And so we kind of inherited a boat, I guess.
Sick. Okay. And so when you were just getting into it, was it like something you were kind of taking seriously, or like just kind of like a summertime hobby?
So we were, it's funny because I don't ever remember in the beginning like taking it seriously, but I did a ton of contests when I was younger.
Really?
Like there was always like the INT stuff, and then some of like the local events that were going on. So I've got this trophy, like best 8-year-old wakeboarder, that like I got it like my first contest or whatever, and then doing just kind of amateur ones. But I do remember the point that I started to take it a little bit more seriously was Nationals came to Ohio in like 2012, maybe something like that.
Okay. And that boat nationals was like?
Yep. The first year was boat nationals in Cincinnati, and then the next year they brought boat and cable to the same place.
Okay. So before we get into like cable, I guess I kind of want to dive a little bit more into like starting riding behind the boat. So you're going there just in the summer then to that lake house, and then you're probably skiing and snowboarding in the winter?
Correct. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay.
That was how the seasons went.
Sick. So when did it turn from like something you were doing fun? It sounds like you were still competing a ton, like at the early years, but when did it turn from like, okay, I'm probably going to start taking this like pretty seriously now as like a profession?
Oh, as a profession
or a career? Like,
probably, well, cause I moved to Orlando when I was 16. So maybe when I was like 14, I guess.
That's when it kind of flipped of like,
yeah,
not just having fun anymore. Like, I mean, still having fun, obviously, but like training to like try and get way better.
Yeah. And so it's hard telling, man. We had so much fun. Like that's what my background is on, is like, just like fun on the water. So I would really say though, that like when I moved to Orlando, that was like, it's game on. I'm here to like really try to make a career. You know what I mean? Everything else was like, well, how can I do well in contests? And then when I got those results back, it was kind of like, okay, well, how can I keep that going? But I would say like when I moved to Orlando was really when it was like, this could be a real thing and we're going to try it out.
Okay. That makes sense. But I feel like moving to Orlando is like a big step in like what you said you were 16. That's probably 2015 then?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. So that's a big step in like a 16-year-old's life. Were your parents like fully on board? Like, hey, we're going to back you totally. It sounds like you got pretty sick parents from what I've heard. So when you moved down here, who'd you live with and kind of what was the setup there?
Yeah, so my parents met Mike Dowdy's mom at an INT contest. And so that was at the point where I was, learning sevens. Maybe I'd landed like a toe 9 or something at that point, had a couple like basic mobs. And so I was working my way through the juniors, and then junior pro was next. So the conversation was, if you want to do junior pro, you need a little bit more of a head start than just riding, 3 times before going down to weight games or whatever. And everybody else in Orlando has been riding the whole winter. So that conversation started with Dowdy's mom and, hey, my son's looking for a room. Hey, my son just bought a house on a lake and he's looking for roommates. So, which is funny because Dowdy was only 20 at the time. So I moved in with him when I was 16 and Dowdy was 20.
Okay, a couple of Midwest cats down in
Straight up,
down in Florida.
Yeah,
that's sick. Sounds like Dowdy kind of helped out a lot of people. Kind of just talking to some people, like getting them on the water and kind of giving them a place to stay. But so before, I guess, moving to Florida, when did Wake Nation open? 2009, 2010?
2009.
2009. Yep. Okay, so then I'm guessing you're going there a ton.
For sure. And it was definitely more of a gradual progression. I remember going to Wake Nation because Cincinnati Mastercraft, the crew who kind of helped me ride boat a lot when I was younger, they had ties there. So they're like, hey, come out like for the pre-grand opening and take a couple laps around the park. And I think I'd rode ODub like one time over like a holiday break or something and just like got smoked around the corner. Like could barely hit a box anyway. And so when Wake Nation opened, it was definitely just like running laps. I don't think they had any features in. And so the first 2 years, I wasn't like a season pass holder. I was just kind of go like here and there because I think we were still spending a lot more time at the lake. And then for Christmas the one year, they got me a season pass. Sick. And then it was like every single day or however often I could be there, I was there.
So you're going there a ton. When do you kind of start getting hooked up with Liquid Force? I know we were talking about Tyler Mosley earlier. When does that kind of start happening?
I want to say that was like, I had always had an LF board because they were in LF Park. And so it was like, if you want to be cool, you ride LF, But I remember the first time, I want to say it was 2014, and Raph actually came to my home lake with Tyler. And so I went out and like rode with him and Raph and stuff. And that was like my first time meeting Raph. And then as I was about to leave, he's like, oh, your boots are kind of shot. Like, let me see if I got a pair for you. And so he sent me a pair, and then we just kind of talked from there. And yeah, been with LF since actually.
Snowballed ever since. That's pretty cool. I guess just kind of getting linked up with Liquid Force. So does it just start with you getting bored slowly and then like it works its way up from there? When did you like officially sign with them, I guess? Yeah.
So, quick shout out though, Tyler Mosley for the hookup though. Cause that really, that was cool. It started everything, but I remember it was, me being stoked on a first pair of boots. And then I think that was more towards the end of the season. So like August or September, and I got a board. So that was like kind of running out as a slab. Got that board. And then the next season got, 2 boards and a pair of boots or something. So I want to say that was like 2014. And then rode 2015. I think it was like the 2015 season was when I just started having a conversation with like Aaron Grace. And maybe that was even it. It was probably just him. And like, I was at Velocity for one contest and my board broke. So it was me going through Aaron instead of Tyler to actually get a board quicker. And then it was really a surprise because I remember sitting down at Surf Expo, the 2015 Surf Expo, right before the 2016 season, and like just being like, man, I wonder if I can get on the global team for Liquid Force. So I'm going to like sit down with Aaron and like try to see if I can get on the global team. And I sit down, and that's when he offers me like a 2-year deal with salary, like to start it off. And I was like, yeah, absolutely.
That's more than I expected.
For sure. Like I'll definitely take this. So the first time inking a deal was like the start of 2016.
Sick. Okay, so you got an immediate 2-year contract, so that probably helps with like the transition down to Florida, I guess. So that was, or I guess you moved in 2015 and then you signed in 2016?
Correct. So so the first year of 2015, my parents were like, we'll back you for 5 months. And then I came back home to Cincinnati for the summer, worked at Wake Nation, and then had made enough money through that year at like little contests and stuff to where it's like, okay, my parents were checking my bank account. Like, you don't need a job yet. You don't need a job yet. You know, like letting me know I was still good. And then I was kind of on my own. And then once I got the contract from LF, then it was like, still don't need a job. So I'm still good and cruising. And so, yeah, that was a huge help.
Okay. So you're living at Dowdy's then in Florida, probably not super crazy rent. And I'm guessing he has a boat that you're riding behind his G or whatever.
Yep. Yeah. He had a G at the time.
So is that primarily what you're doing? It's like who's in that crew that you're riding with down there?
So actually the crew is cool. Like I had come down a couple times before and hung out a lot with like Jake Palat and Jamie Lopina. But really the person like who I started to ride with the most was Megan, because the first day I moved down there, it was Dowdy, Noah Flegel, and her, because she lived on the same lake. they all went out. And then, so Meg and I are kind of the same age. So once we were done that day, I got Meg's number, and then we just started shredding together all the time. And she was like way better than me and taught me so many tricks that first year. It was sick.
I bet. So, and she's probably riding on a G at that point too.
Correct, yeah.
She was on Antigua at that time. Okay, so that's like the crew riding there. I don't want to jump like too far ahead. I still kind of want to like keep diving into that like section of your life. What like contests are you doing? Obviously the junior pro tour at that time.
So I was focusing a lot on cable. So like I'll run it through 2015. We had the Wakeboard World Series for junior pro. So that was my first year like diving in there. So like Wake Games or Wake Open, Nationals, Worlds, maybe like some of the Pro-Am events that they were hosting. And then Malibu was always doing the rider experience.
Yeah.
So I was going to a couple of those. But then a lot of it was like the Triple Crown. I followed the Triple Crown in 2015 and stuff. A lot of the local events. And I feel like that was, I would go back home to Ohio where they did like a Lally's Board Bash up there. And so did that event and stuff too.
Okay, sick. Yeah. So focusing a little bit more on park, just because you're probably still newer to like riding big wakes.
Exactly, yeah. And so I had, that was kind of where I think, and I'll rewind it back to 2015, probably what set me over the edge, like with Liquid Force and kind of opened that door up was I made my first pro podium in 2015 at the Triple Crown with like, that was the year when Dom went like undefeated and then Aaron Gunn and those guys were ripping. So made the first podium there and then was just doing very average in the junior pro boat scene because it was like my first year up against, all the top guys who are kind of ripping then.
Okay, sick. So focusing a little bit more on park, I guess you're probably just riding ODub like every day.
Just lapping ODub, dude, like a psycho. Like, yeah, but there was a cool crew there because I was like, we had the Worrells, like Jake Pilat, the Cohens were riding there too, and like John was still shredding. So yeah, I mean, there was definitely, even the Stuckies were there, it goes back that far, I guess.
Yeah, and following Yonel was probably something wicked, dude.
Yeah, kid was good.
Kid's so good, or was so good. I bet he still is ripping, though, if he decided to hop on a board.
Straight up.
So, yeah, riding here in Florida, when does it, like, kind of shift to focusing a little bit more on boat? Like, is that the next year after that? I mean, I guess you're still focusing on boat, but, like, you're getting used to the big wakes now, like, the pro tour is probably kind of in your sights at some point, I'd imagine.
Yeah, in 2017, I did my first like pro tour qualifier. So we went to Phoenix for that one. And so I qualified for the first stop and maybe made semis or something there. And then that was like the only pro tour I did until 2020 because they always overlapped with cable events. And so I always chose cable over boat. But I don't know, like in 2017 was when we started filming formats. And so I wanted to have like a really good part in that. For the boat portion of it. And so it was always just kind of, it was like all building blocks, just gradually building your skill set along. And I think cable was really like, cable was my bread and butter. So I was focusing so much on that. And then whatever I could learn on cable and transfer to the boat is kind of how I was like balancing the two. So, the focus remained on cable so much. And then I would really say that like the focus switched in like 2020. So kind of recently.
Yeah. I guess I was going to say this for a little bit later, but it seems like perfect. Why do you think more riders didn't or don't follow the path that you've been taking of trying to be good at every aspect of the sport?
I think because it's really hard.
That's fair.
And also, I had an upbringing that supported it completely. Like I had been at a lake house and just been a family fun thing for so long. And then so randomly and conveniently, a wake park opens 30 minutes from my house. So I have the best of both worlds. And it was the other thing as well is that my parents were just dropping me off at the park and I was riding it, but they were still going to the lake or vice versa. Like they were just going to the lake. So I always had an opportunity to choose one or the other and kind of roll with that as I got older. And it never became a thought of like, I'm going to choose one or I'm going to choose the other. It was just, I'm shredding here, I'm shredding there. Like we're just having fun.
Interesting. Cause I feel like some riders would be like, okay, I'm in Florida now. I'm doing the Orlando thing. I'm riding behind boat a ton. You kind of see where the dollar signs lie and like, it's definitely there, like on the boat side of things, like if you really want to push it and kind of make a career out of it. So I think it's just interesting that you still kept riding park as much as you did. And I mean, I guess there's still money obviously in it, but like nothing like a boat contract or like winning big boat contests. You know what I mean?
For sure. And, in 2016 and stuff, there was still pretty good money to be made in cable. And I think the level of riding as well in boat was so far ahead of where I was at, but I was fitting right in with the cable stuff. So I don't know. It was just, it never was too much of like a big decision of like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It's just, well, I'm just doing it both and kind of seeing where it takes me, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah.
Interesting. Do you see yourself like going forward still? I mean, obviously, I guess the answer is probably gonna be yeah, but like, even how do you balance the two? Like, how do you balance the two? How do you?
No, for sure. Because I mean, it's definitely been, I would like, not a topic or anything, but you know, people are probably like, oh, how come Gunther wasn't at Worlds? How come he wasn't at LAO? Things like that, you know? So, moving forward, it's kind of, I've tried to do more of like what I want to do and like what my heart's telling me to do. I guess in the past I was just like chasing every single contest that I could. So now I want to make more decisions that make me super stoked. So if that is like taking the time to not go to a cable event so I can just practice riding boat and show up to an event feeling like I'm ready and like I want to do that, you know, like I want to do well. That's like where my focus lies, I guess. So moving forward though, I kind of see both aspects of the sport like helping me segue from one to the other. So when I do well at a boat contest, like, okay, I'm stoked. And now I feel like that weight's off my shoulders a little bit and I can just go have fun riding cable. Like one mission's been done. Like, let's go enjoy yourself.
So it's a constant kind of back and forth. Are you like looking forward to like, say there's a cable contest, you know, in 2 weeks? Are you going to be like, okay, I'm focusing now riding a ton of cable.
For sure.
And then after that, it's like, okay, there's a boat kind of pro tour stop now or in a week or whatever. So it's like a constant like swimming through both. That's so weird.
That's a great way to describe
that's
it.
So,
even, you know, but I think what's made that transition easier is that I've been doing that since like 2017. Like I remember in 2017, we did the O'Neill hit the road trip. So it was that winch trip for like 9 or 10 days. So we flew to Europe, did this whole winch trip across through Germany and then ended at LAO and then did LAO, flew home and had like 2 days to ride boat before I went to Masters as a junior or whatever. So, you know, these quick turnaround times and really like testing yourself of like, all right, well, how quickly can you just bring it back to what you were doing 2 weeks ago, you know, because it's all wakeboarding at the end of the day. There's just a little differences you have to change.
Yeah. So like, what's your average week, I guess, in Orlando looking like? Is it pretty much based on like contests that are coming up and that's what you're riding mostly?
Yeah. Cause like, for another example is like, every week is different, but after Munich Mash this year, came back and didn't step foot on the cable for a month. And then it was just riding boat because we had so many boat events. And then Cable Nationals came up. And so it was like, all right, we're going to go ride boat in the morning and then go hit the cable in the evening. Boat, cable, and then do the event. And then now that once that was over, boat events next. Okay, back to boat. And then in a week we got Wake the City in Italy, so we're strictly cable now, and so you just...
Are you going to that?
Yeah.
That's sick. That's a sick contest. That's
really
like
dope.
Massey's thing, right?
Mm-hmm, correct,
That's super cool. Obviously, probably a lot of Red Bull people are going to be there, but...
For sure.
I kind of want to stick on this topic. Dylan Miller's got like his pro model's a crossover board. Was that ever like in your mind of doing a crossover board, or like, do you wish you had one board that would handle two things, or is it simply, I need a boat board that can like, is capable of winning a pro tour stop, and then I need a cable board that's also capable of doing that?
The opportunity fell in my lap, I guess, of where in I want to say it was 2019, I thought I was just getting a cable board, and then I'm like at Expo, and I think Meg even came up to me and she's like, "You're getting a boat board?" And I was like, "I'm getting a boat board?" Like I didn't even know. And honestly, I think I was like not qualified enough to have a pro model for boat yet. I hadn't really proven anything, and they were just down to give me one. So the thought of a hybrid didn't really cross the mind, I guess, because it just kind of fell in my lap. But I was riding like the Watson Dose and stuff prior to that, which was a hybrid board. So it wouldn't have been far off from what I had been riding at that time, and would have made sense, honestly.
So could you see, I mean, obviously you're probably not going to go back to one board, but like, could you see yourself excelling on a hybrid board, like at both avenues, cable and boat?
I think so. Yeah.
Really?
I think if I had like, I mean, even my cable board's like pretty stiff relatively. And so if you were able to slap fins on there, I feel like you could do some damage.
Interesting. And, and your style is definitely like caters to that style of wakeboarding. It's definitely a more kind of surfy, floaty style, it seems like.
Yeah. I kind of have like an unorthodox style of riding a little bit. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but it's definitely a little different. I think it comes from too, like I rode finless, like I rode a cable board or a finless board on the boat for forever until I got my pro model, which is kind of even just, small molded on fins. But so it's a loose ride, but that definitely makes my style my own in a way.
Yeah, you were, pre-training wheels with the cable board.
Yeah, straight up.
Oh, man. I do want to talk about Shredtown Jamboree, the qualifier. So you were the one who got, like, the wild card from that edit you did. Was it mostly at Area 52?
It was all at Area 52.
Okay, it was all there. So kind of describe the process of, like, filming that with Taylor and, like, your vision, it was to try and get obviously everyone sends in a minute or a minute and a half, whatever it was. So kind of describe the process of that.
Yeah, I was going out to Area 52 a lot because obviously I was with LF and I was just down to like go help Henny build the park and try to chip in where I could. I was still like such a grom, so I guess I was just way too stoked and ready to go do anything. And so, but that was when Taylor was, I don't think he was working for Alliance yet, but he was in town and just, I didn't even really know who he was, but we had seen each other enough at Area 52 and, he was doing Dorsey's video at the same time, so it was kind of hard. I kind of had to convince him to do my video as well. And, but the process of filming was pretty cool. Back then, I really tried to make sure that all my shit was super dialed. And then when it came time to film it, you just had to point the camera at me, and I could do it, like, really easily, But then I let Taylor control the editing on that because that's what he does best. And so he gave me like some like gangster ASAP song or whatever too. And that was like probably one of the hardest edits that I've probably ever had, like with the song choice and stuff. And yeah, that was a cool one. I was always really stoked, especially when everything came full circle, got to win and go to Shredtown with all those guys. Was a pretty big turning point in my career as well, I think.
Yeah. Did you see like after that it was done and you were watching it back, were you like, I think I got a chance of like having the best edit that's sent in and kind of going to the Jamboree?
I think my riding was starting to progress a lot, and I was definitely like trying to push the technical side of rail riding, and I might not have been as proper then as I am now, but I don't know. I definitely was trying to think outside the box, and I was riding Area 52 a lot, so I felt pretty dialed, and like, I don't know, just compared to all the other videos, like I think Dorsey's was the best one. I think what sucked though is that he broke his arm filming it, and so it kind of got cut short, possibly for him, but he has like really dope stuff in there too.
I never saw his edit for that.
I actually think all the videos are like removed. They were on Alliance. I don't think they're on.
Well, I found yours on your channel.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah.
I guess I didn't look for anyone else's, but that's a bummer if they're all removed.
Yeah, because
it'd be
like
interesting to go back and watch.
Some of them they were really sick.
Yeah. Okay, so you're still pretty young at that point. So like, what's it like to go at Shredtown, like the lake, and that's like still I think looks like one of the funnest 2-tower setups to ever ride. Like, how was that whole weekend or week or whatever it was?
Yeah, that was pretty unbelievable. I was 17, so flew there, camped out with everybody, and I don't know. I was just kind of along for the ride, I guess, and not really. It wasn't a place to make my statement too like overly known, I guess. I was just there to kind of do my thing and try to let my riding talk for it the best I could. But really, I was still kind of bottom of the bucket, like with Raph and Brenton and Grant.
Yeah, you got some legends there,
without a doubt, So I'm just trying to like kind of hold my own, and I think I did pretty fine that year. I always look back on the setup and be like, man, if only I could go ride that now, like what it would be, But that weekend was definitely one I'll never forget. And watching Raph do like one of the first double T to B's, like up, well, I guess a second to Brad's, but like up the step up pull, and like some of those sessions where everybody's just there to watch everyone throw down, and like watching people try to work their ass off for the lines and stuff that we did too. Like it was definitely inspiring. I think it showed me where the level was at, and like, all right, if you want to really be a part of it, like you kind of got to step up.
So it's a big learning experience, kind of like it's one thing to watch like a lot of high level pro riders videos and their video parts and like movies, but it's definitely another thing to kind of be like in the cut with them. And like, would you say it was a big learning experience for you to like be side by side with all these like legends?
Yeah, without a doubt. Like, you're there with the best of the best. So even just interacting and getting to know them, and I think even nerding out a little bit still with like some of the guys who are there, because I wasn't sure that I was super familiar with Shredtown stuff a little bit prior to that, but I know before I went, it was like watching every single video. And I had grown up like watching Lip Smack and stuff too. So, to meet them and obviously see the compound in person is like always mind blowing. It's kind of like the first time you rock up to a cable and you're like, all right, I've seen the clips, so like, let me see it all in one, with the real eyeballs. And so that was sick.
So, I don't know when you're linked up with, or when you linked up with Red Bull. Was it in this time frame, or was it after the first or second real wake?
That was going to be the end of 2017 going into 2018.
Okay, so let's talk about Real Wake 2017 then first.
Cool.
Because I want to know everything about like that, because from what I've heard was like, did someone get hurt and then you got put in, or
Correct.
like, okay, so describe that.
Yeah, so Bob got hurt, and Bob got hurt. We were still in the process of filming formats that year because Taylor was filming Rathy, but Taylor and I were tight though because we were starting to film formats. So I get a call though. I know people are filming, and so I get a call like, "Hey, this one person pulled out. Do you want to take our spot?" The only thing is that you have like 30 days to do this, and we don't like all the filmers are pretty much taken. So you're kind of going to have to work with somebody that we know. So Alliance set it up. This guy named Zach Schaefer, he lives down in Orlando, but I had no clue who this dude was. So it was kind of like, you down to help me? And he was down. And so I was really thrown into it and just trying to hustle as hard as I could. And I worked super hard for that one, but without even really having a clue of like what I was doing, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like that's a tough thing. You want to know plenty ahead of time to film that, because it's, a minute and a half of every clip has to be perfect.
Banger,
and, like,
for sure.
At the highest level.
Yeah.
So you get 30 days. Did you get the full 30 days, or were you like...
I think I had like one contest come up in between there or something. So that's kind of why when you watch that part, there's a lot of clips in there that are just average. There's a couple bangers, but a lot of it's kind of average. We were just kind of like, was that good? Okay, cool. Let's move on to the next one and just try to keep like stacking, I guess. So I think that's why the part shows it.
30 days, and then they give you a budget, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the budget was like $7,000
for you and the filmer. Or?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess, that's a lot of money for 30 days, I guess. But did you feel like it was enough to, like, that first year at least, I guess, it probably wasn't so money focused because it wasn't a ton of winching. But I don't know. Like, does that work for you? Like,
I don't think I ever saw any of that $7,000. I'm pretty sure the filmer got it all. But with like I said, I was so young and more appreciative of the opportunity of anything. And also the dude that was like renting nicer cameras and like got a water housing and kind of was like going, and he's also more of he's into a high level of production. So him coming to do Real Wake, like, I'm sure the budget was probably pretty small compared to what he was used to looking to.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I never really saw any of that, but my feelings weren't hurt or anything. And I was just stoked to have like a final piece to actually upload and maybe give them a run for their money. But, when I got the rebate in 2018, that was when it kind of got real.
We'll talk about the rebate. Yeah. But, and that the idea behind that budget is, like, for anyone listening, I guess,
please, yeah.
I don't know this for sure, but like the idea is that you spend it all on the video part. You're not supposed to take any, for yourself. Like,
well, I guess it depends how good you are with numbers. But you're right though. That is, X Games did it so properly in terms of, let's do a video contest and let's do it the right way, right? Let's let you guys handpick your filmer. Let's give you full creative control. And let's also give you a budget to really make it a high level production, something that is X Games worthy, or going to be one of the best video parts ever, right? And so the budget, it was for anything, camera rental, lodging, gas, a lot of gas, driving, I don't know, food, stuff like that.
So they just cut you a check at the beginning, and it's like, all right, here you go. So if you spend $1,000, you can pocket $6,000, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. So we
not the spirit of it.
Correct.
But I guess if you can get the best part, it doesn't matter. Who
totally.
cares?
Yeah.
So you're filming for formats though at that same time, right?
Yeah.
Or like shortly thereafter.
Mm-hmm.
So how does the opportunity to film with some of the best riders in the world, which ended up being one of the best wakeboard movies of all time, how does that come about with Taylor?
That stems definitely from, working with him closely at Area 52 and him helping me with the Jamboree part. And then after we did the Jamboree part, I think we were hanging out a bit and we were all stoked, and I was like, man, I kind of want to make an edit. But I don't really have that much time. I was going to go back to Ohio, and we had a couple contests. And I think at that time, Taylor was working for Alliance, and so he was really busy as well. And so when we filmed day 10, it was 10 days of shooting pretty much, and we just banged it all out in one go. That goes back to, like, I tried to learn every single trick prior, so that way when we came and filmed it, like, the boat part of that edit is filmed in, like, 2 days maybe, because I just learned everything, and then we filmed it all, and it was sick. But anyway, so that accumulation, I think Taylor, just him and I worked pretty well together, and he kind of saw my work ethic and then was down to include me in formats and stuff.
Dang. Okay, so how does the beginning of filming that look like because I think a lot of people don't understand like the behind the scenes process, even me, of like a high level wakeboard film that's like a lot of winching in it. So like our trips being planned.
For sure.
Like I guess kind of walk me through the behind the scenes of that stuff.
So I think I was still a little less involved at that part because of how busy I was with contests. And not that I wasn't giving it my full focus, but, you know, Raph, I think, saw the movie, not to speak for him, but like this was going to be, you know, one of Raph's best parts ever, is one of his best parts ever.
Yeah.
Even though all of his parts are kind of the best parts ever, but like the formats one was going to be like real amazing. So he was dedicating a lot of time and he went on every single trip. So yes, they did team trips though, where they did an Oz trip, they did a Germany trip, they went to Canada. And then for my portion, we did Felix, Raph, and myself did like 5 or 6 day road trip up to Jacksonville. So we just rented a U-Haul, threw the kicker in the back, and then we all rolled up there. I think, yeah, Dylan didn't come with us on that one. It was just Felix, Raph, and I. So we just rolled the kicker into the U-Haul and just kind of dirtbagged it through Jacksonville, trying to find spots along the way, and some we had mapped out. And then we did a trip to Ohio later in the season. That was like just for me, and so that was
you
really
got
good.
that mile long back 50 on that rail.
Yeah.
How far was that?
I want to say it was far. Like
Because you had the measuring tape out,
we
but I
had the
couldn't
measure tape
see
out,
how
and
far
now-
it was.
All right. I want to say it was like 60 feet.
Okay.
Like 60 to 80 feet because we were like kind of inching it back further and further. I wish I had a photo of it somewhere. It was long.
I mean,
sure.
she's a long one.
Yeah.
What's it like winching with Raph and Felix? Because had you done a lot of winching up to that point, or was this like kind of popping the cherry on?
Yeah, it was. I was pretty fresh to it, and it's kind of cool because you know, honestly, through formats, you can see my evolution of winching really progress. Like some of it, I kind of got like this sloppy wall ride back one. I've got like a really short like backboard front 2-7 off of a handrail and stuff. And those were kind of like, that was like my first wall ride, my first handrail and things like that. But doing it with a star-studded crew like Felix and Raph, I think I learned a lot from them of kind of what to do and what not to do. You know, what to do is setting up the winch, how to be discreet, like how to be quick in and out, and just, you know, really make your hits count, and learning what not to do. Like I definitely watched Raph kind of be a bit of a head case sometimes at spots, and him be very meticulous of what was going on, but also is what leads to him being really freaking good at it. But like the one spot though, like not wearing a helmet, and he gets broken off, and we had to leave the spot because he gets broken off and can't go back to hit it because, you know, he wasn't wearing a helmet. So it's always like,
What clip? Where did he get broke off?
It's in the part. Like it's the transition from his first song into his second song. He goes for, I think he just goes backboard onto. It's kind of like it's a handrail kicker to backboard, and then it's on like a concrete walkway, and he falls into the middle.
Oh,
sticks
I guess
and
I didn't
goes
know
over.
how bad that was.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
he-
it looked bad.
Yeah,
but-
so he like smashes his head and had like a huge goose egg on top of his head and was like kind of concussed, and
Yeah.
that definitely like he wasn't feeling too hot after that one. So, but then he goes back though and gets like back tail back 2 and like the switch nose press front 3 or maybe reg nose press front 3, which is like redeems himself completely, like destroys that spot.
It's a gnarly little hallway to fall into.
Yeah, it is for
Oh,
sure.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine doing the no helmet, no vest for every single clip in the streets ever.
Yeah.
Oh, Raph is a different animal.
100%.
So yeah, it had one of the most stacked lineups, you know, of any film. If you were to kind of give a top 3 films you've ever seen, would formats kind of fall into that one, even though you're in it?
I think in terms of where we pushed winch riding with formats, yes. So it kind of falls into its own genre almost because it's right up there with like Shredtown and stuff. But because it was so winch heavy, I feel like that pushed the envelope of winching to kind of another place, which was sick. But you know, is that my top 3 favorite movie? It might be. I don't know. Like I said, we were just hanging out with Andy Kolb and got to watch the debut again with him, and like. That's another great wake film. But if you give me top 3, is that the question?
Yeah, top 3.
Top 3? Okay.
Run top 3, yeah.
Top three. This is like, I mean, 12
You could bump it to 5 if you want to do 5. You could do 5.
I don't know. Like
top few.
12 Honkies is such a fun, like storytelling,
Yeah.
like old school movie, which is dope. I grew up watching Push Process, and I don't know, just is a great film. The Debut is also one that I grew up watching. And I will shout out formats as number 4 because I was in it. But I would say like 12 honkies, push cross, and the debut kind of cover like 3 eras of riding, which was dope.
Yeah, that's a solid list. I think 12 honkies is definitely something you can also show to like anyone.
For sure.
Like, I mean, some wakeboard movies, or I guess wakeboard and snowboard movies or skateboard movies, whatever, a lot of people would watch them and be like, this is like for the core rider. This is not for like the weekend warrior for the most part, or anyone who doesn't know like, you know, wakeboarding or snowboarding is. But 12 honkies is definitely one that like you can put on and have a good laugh at. Well, also some like super sick riding for the time, like awesome to watch. So let's jump into, unless there's anything else you want to touch on in formats. Like, is there anything else you want to like dive into that I maybe wouldn't think to ask or whatever?
No, man. It just
any crazy kickouts or anything like that? Any crazy slams?
You know, so that was the like my involvement was like a little bit more short-lived. So I wasn't there for all the winching that they did through Europe and Oz and stuff. So I can't really vouch for like too much of the crazy stories that they had there. But it was just, you know, I'm super thankful that I had the opportunity to be a part of a full-length film with that star-studded crew. And, you know, once again, just something I'm just fortunate to have that on the resume and like have my riding kind of etched forever in video like that.
Yeah, it's a sick movie. If anyone out there hasn't seen it, like,
please.
I think you gotta get it on Apple.
You can get it anywhere. It's like $5. $5.
It's worth it.
It's worth it. Like, it's so worth it.
I think it's probably the best wakeboard movie, like technically wise, like riding. Just because I think I favor winching heavily, but still, it's
for sure.
It's good watch for anyone who likes riding their waterboard.
Yeah.
So let's go to Real Wake 2018. So you got the gold. Were you going into that? You know, obviously you got an invite, I'm guessing, like immediately.
Yes.
So how's that look? Like they reach out and be like, hey, last year we understand that you didn't get like the full opportunity that anyone else would. We want you to, you know, come on again, or?
Yeah, pretty much. It was kind of like, I think that was also the benefit of doing it in 2017 and is that I was really trying to make a push of like, hey, you know, maybe give me another shot. And if I can give you something in 30 days, that's average. Imagine what I can do in 60 days. You know what I mean? So I think I showed that. And then, I got that invite back. And even I wasn't sure if I was going to get it, but I was already talking to Taylor. Like, if I do, you're my guy. And like, we're going to go all out for this. And that was definitely what we did. So I got the call pretty early.
Okay. And he's on board for that. Like totally stoked. Like,
sure.
Let's do a banger X Games part. Is it still 2018, $7,000 for the filmer and you?
Yep.
And then 60 days, you said?
Maybe 60 days.
From like the point of them being like, you're in.
I got the
start
call.
Filming?
I got the call in March. So I was like I was in Australia and I remember getting it. And then
who calls you? Is that some X Games?
McCaffrey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for
okay.
sure. I want to say it was March though, but then I think we had until, you know, I remember because I like, my birthday is July 2nd. And so I remember like winching on my birthday through July for X Games. And because I think the deadline was like July 15th or something. So, but maybe April, May, June. It's slipping me a little bit right now. But regardless though, getting the invite back, I knew all the mistakes I made in the first one and, you know, where the bar could be stepped up, I guess. And I also had trick lists in mind that I had just been jotting down for forever. Like the back three to a ledge. And, just, you know, what's the next evolution of winching? Or like it's taking park riding and doing it somewhere gnarly on a concrete ledge or a handrail, right? So I think I had all these tricks in mind. It was also just finding the spot that accommodated that.
So that whole like off season or whatever, the year between, you're like basically preparing for the next Real Wake part, even though you don't know you're going to get it, but you could probably kind of see the writing on the wall that you probably would get an opportunity to do it again. Interesting.
Yeah, it was cool. Like, I mean, I remember finding spots and going and trying to scope spots out all the way down in Tampa and stuff. And then, you know, when we pulled the trigger, Taylor pretty much came and lived with me and pretty much like slept in the floor of my room for like a month or two. And I did have my dad come back down because he was the dude that I called in 2017. Like, it was kind of difficult trying to find somebody to come and just like be down to get in the streets.
Extra set of hands.
Every day. And someone who you kind of don't have to ask twice for them to come.
You have to be polite. You can kind of like tell them what to do.
For sure. So like big shout out to, mom and dad, because mom came down too, but dad was
Mama
definitely
Oka.
like, for sure. Like
killing it.
Yeah. They're always really sick helping me out. And so, but yeah, we crushed like a lot of spots just trying to go as hard as we could.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously anyone who's going to film an X Games Real Lake part is going to have the mindset of wanting to win. So you had the mindset of like wanting to win gold and film the best, you know, part you could. There's some pretty heavy clips in that, very heavy clips, I would say. But one that sticks out to me, and I think you've talked about this before, is that PVC rail with like the sections in it or whatever. When you broke it, that was when you went back to like try and re-up it. Like you got the clip and then you wanted to get more of it, or no?
Yeah, exactly. So like we had, I don't know if I've uploaded the raw files yet, but I got all the raw files, right? So I have one where it's like a real solid, like I dip into the sea, pop out, land front two, and then I kind of like ride into the grass. So it's like a make, and then I go into the grass. And then I had another one where I make, and the way that we had the winch set up, it was like the body of water got really narrow at the end. Mm-hmm. So I kind of land and like roll out. And so we were down to use those, but it was just like, how can we make this better and better? And so I guess I just like pushed the luck too far until it snapped, and honestly I got so lucky there. Like
super lucky, because you could have fallen like on the inside or like fully caught.
For sure. And not gotten ejected. Even like, cause on all the attempts, I never dipped and fell inside of the rail on the sea, which was like, that would have been real bad. But I don't even know, dude, looking back at X Games, like, I'm like, some of that shit was so stupid. Like how you walked away from that, and even like, oh yeah, this PVC probably won't break. Like, 10 hits or 15 hits later, like, oh, she gone.
Was that in your mind? Like when you're hitting it, like, these are PVC and they're not supported in the middle. One of these might pop.
I mean, I heard it every time. You could hear the as you go through it, and like looking at the clips, you can see them all flexing. It was like, just give me one more.
I feel like after the first one, you're like, well, it didn't break on the first one, and I put my weight on it, so it should be all right.
Totally. Yep.
Not the case.
But that was I was stoked in that spot, and that was like a real public business complex or something too, and just got super lucky the day of, and no one kicked us out.
That's the one where the car like tumbled in the background or whatever?
No, that was a different spot. That was at like an IRS building or something, but right outside the highway. And we had gotten kicked out the first day, and then we came back a second day, and then that car flips, like someone just like a rainy day, and they like just swerve off the road, flip the car. My dad like jumps over the fence, like help this lady out. And then we're like, cops show, like everyone shows up. It's like, okay, we should probably leave now. So that was a 3-dayer, like took us to get that one.
Brutal.
Yeah. Pretty funny.
So you were just talking about how some of the shit you did in that was real gnarly. Would you like, if the opportunity presented itself, film another X Games real lake part?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what, if anything, would you do differently? Or how would you approach it any differently?
I would just want to travel around to hit spots that are different than what you have in Florida, right? Because if you look at all that, it's all kicker to something. Kicker to ledge, kicker to handrail, kicker up it. Like, I would just want to find more diverse features and probably use less of a kicker and try to keep it more natural and more spillways, and trying to find big down rails that are more snow/skate street stylish.
Yeah.
But that was the beauty of Real Wake. I think that always caught everyone by surprise is like the thinking outside the box. And also, I mean, I really had so much appreciation for Shred Town, but I had even more appreciation for Brenton when he won, because it was like, X Games is the biggest platform that we have in Wake. So we're showing Wake off to all these people, and you're showing every aspect of Wake.
Yeah.
Like, thank you for that. And also it's super hard. So I would still follow that plan completely, because, it's the best way to show off wakeboarding.
Yeah. Brenton, that was when he did the back four from the pool to that down rail, right?
That was the second year, actually.
Did he not win that year?
He did not win that year. He got silver or bronze that year.
Mental, dude.
Yeah, it's real wild.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like I definitely remember that coming out, though, in 2017, 2018, like the real wake parts. And there were definitely a lot of people who were kind of saying, like, this isn't wakeboarding. It's like you're not behind a boat, not behind the wake. I disagree with that, obviously, but like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, is it a totally different aspect and genre of it, or is it like it's all wakeboarding?
I think it's all wakeboarding. I don't want to dive too deep into that, because I don't really feel that opinionated on it, I guess. Like, I mean, if you want to call it something else, find me a better name than waterboarding, and I'm down. But like,
waterboarding would have been sick if it didn't get ruined by the torture shit.
Right, exactly. So that's where the argument really goes skewed. It's gonna have a hard to find a sport to gather traction when the name's waterboarding. But I don't really think too much about that, man. Like, wakeboarding started behind the boat, and it's a branch to just be accessible in all different forms. And like, I don't know. You can kind of call it whatever you want, but
yeah. And I mean, I think it's just the board you're riding is what matters. So like snowboarding, skateboarding, surfing, it's like you're riding that board. You could be on a vert ramp or a super pipe or like out in the streets. It's still like the board you're riding is the sport you're doing, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And it's definitely new. Like winching at a high level is like super new in terms of like the age of the sport. Like obviously winching had been around for a while, but I think like Shredtown kind of started turning the corner of like, oh, these are like legitimate clips, that are like, they stand up to every other clip you're going to get on a wakeboard, if not even harder.
Without a doubt.
So,
yeah, it's fun looking back at some of the older videos and stuff and watching those guys, like what their winch setups were. And those were definitely more of like, they were building pool gaps to tow with a winch, but it wasn't necessarily the urban environment. I feel like Shredtown really kind of coined that and made it something to seek after. It almost gave it more of a genre, right? Like a more defined genre of wakeboarding.
That's a good way to put it, a more defined genre of the sport, which is like, I think super sick because I think, personally at least, I think winching is like the highest level of wakeboarding. Would you agree or disagree with that?
I would totally agree. Yeah, 100%. Because it's the gnarliest, it's the heaviest. It tests every bit of you as where your skills are as a wakeboarder. Like I've always said, it's like, it takes a good cable rider to ride park well, but it takes a great or amazing cable rider to winch averagely. Like it really tests you.
Yeah, not to mention like the mental aspect and battle of it is like a whole different, it's like its own golf game.
Yeah, straight up.
It's super hard.
Totally.
So I guess we kind of went through the real wake gold. It's got to be pretty sick winning an X Games gold medal.
Once again, like just something to add to that resume that I'm so thankful for the time and places that I've been, and it's kind of been a bit of luck of the draw going back to formats and being part of the full length, but then being able to be a part of Real Wake the last year that it happens and win gold. Like, I mean, can you ask for anything better? Like,
yeah.
Definitely not. Like, I got an X Games gold medal. That shit's dope. Like, not that many people can say that. So I will like forever be thankful for that one.
Yeah. Do you pull that puppy out every now and again and just kind of?
She's sitting on the mantelpiece over there, but it's all again.
Gonna have to go snag that later. Axis. I do want to talk about. That's pretty recent, right? You getting on Axis.
Yep, 2020.
2020. So that's, I guess, not too far after that real wake part. I don't have anything that like I wrote down from like the 2019 year. Is there anything you want to touch on there that you can kind of remember?
2019, I won the shootout at Wakefest. So like won the 50K there. So that was kind of like, that was my first boat win. And I don't know, kind of a memorable one, I think, just being the underdog and seeing how like Ollie had won the event the year past kind of as the underdog. And so I felt like that was my underdog moment almost of like coming through on the boat and taking like that prize was kind of cool.
50K is a lot. Is that direct deposit or how does that work?
Half cash, half check.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why? Just because they had the 25K on display or whatever?
I don't know. I just gave it to me.
So you could take 5K to the bar that night and follow the 10% rule.
Yeah, exactly. We had came in a Walmart bag full of 20s.
Walmart bag, really?
Yeah, sick.
20s, not even hundreds. I guess that makes it look like a lot of cash.
Yeah.
So how does Axis kind of come about? How does that get started, that relationship?
I've just been riding boat for a really long time, and obviously that was kind of the next evolution. And I think as a wakeboarder in Orlando and a boat rider, something that you're looking for is, where can I find that boat sponsorship, right? And so Mastercraft did help me out for X Games and stuff, but that kind of dead ended after that. And then there was a couple other offers that had come through, but none of them were with brands that I saw matched me as my own brand and kind of my image as well. But after I was talking with Gordon Harrison, like a fellow shredder OG guy kind of, and we were just talking about, I guess how unrealistic it would be for any of us as wakeboarders to like go out and buy a wakeboard boat. But like, if you look at an Axis or something, like, that's actually, if we could go buy that, like, what would you buy? Like, oh, you'd buy an Axis, you know what I mean? And so that whole thing kind of stuck with me of it just being more approachable and like realistic, and even something that my family could potentially afford. Malibu or a Mastercraft would be way far out of the question, but an Axis, maybe, And so the more I kind of like looked into it and just saw the product and saw the brand, I felt like it fit really closely with me of like what my upbringing is and like what I want to represent too, which is trying to find the best way to keep people coming into wakeboarding and keeping it as accessible as possible. Obviously, when you say like, hey, a boat's $100K, like, yes, that's an incredible amount of money, but compared to $250K, okay, well, that's half the price. You know what I mean? So my whole route was that it's the more affordable, accessible option, and it's absolutely the best wave that you can get out of it too.
Interesting. So what do you have out front here?
That's the A24.
A24. Okay.
Yeah.
And is that like their like top of the line wakeboard boat?
I would say that's their flagship wakeboard boat right now.
When it comes to wakeboard wake, and it sounds like you're super stoked on like the size and shape of that wakeboard wake.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's like what we train Pro Tour for, what we do all the riding on. It's mint.
Sick. So you said you did get offers from like other companies, and you felt that Axis like aligned with the rider you are. Is that, correctly put? Like,
I think so.
Like who you are as a person, as in, I feel like people call it like a budget wakeboard boat.
Yeah.
And that's right to an extent of like, well, it's not super expensive, like in comparison, but it sounds like you are still super stoked with like the product that's sitting out here, like in terms of the wake and the boat or whatever. So it's like a product that you can definitely get behind.
Exactly.
And the goal of you is to sell, like you're a boat salesman or you're a wakeboard salesman. Whenever sponsors reach out and like get you on the team, the goal of that person is to sell their product. And it sounds like you really believe in the product, which is why you kind of turned down some other deals or whatever and went with Axis. Is that pretty fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. And I think when you look at like the roster of brands that I ride for, LF, O'Neill, Red Bull, and now Axis, right? All those brands have kind of aligned with my image, I guess. I love to surf. I love being in the water. So O'Neill's that perfect fit. LF, for as long as I've ever lived, has been about like fun on a wakeboard, you know what I mean? And so I continue to like live by that, and I think the brand fits it well. And then like Red Bull's kind of the top tier of energy drinks and stuff, right? Anyway, so when I try to, when I was thinking about it, it's like, man, Axis is like a little bit more raw, a little bit less like corporate / structured, I think. And when you look at the roster that they've had too, like having Randall the Vandal Harris, like having Tom Verche, like they've always supported cable and stuff too. So I don't know, man. It was just like a real natural fit.
It felt good and natural when it lined up. That's sick. I guess I do want to talk about like when you got linked up with Red Bull. We're kind of backing up a couple of years here, but how did that relationship come to be?
Yeah. Obviously, I had been living with Dowdy, so he was a Red Bull athlete, and I had been dating Meg now for a couple of years, and she was a Red Bull athlete as well. So I had just inevitably been around their team manager, and so just been able to show face. I even went and helped Dowdy with like a Red Bull shoot the one time, so I was there. I was the dude to drive his boat and just do all the bitch work kind of, and work hard as well. That was always what I live by is like, I don't know. If anybody's watching or if nobody's watching, I want to be the hardest working guy to do anything and just, I don't know, try to make my statement that way, I guess. Anyway, so fast forward though, we were at a double up contest in Portland, and Craig from Rockstar comes up and he's like, maybe we were about to do the podium or something. He's like, I'll give you a Rockstar hat right now, and like you can go on the podium with it, and then we'll like talk a deal or something. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Like,
wow.
Thanks, but my inner, guts like, let's go. But also I was like, well, let me think about this. Yeah. So, so I kind of held off, and we continued the conversation, but Parks was there and kind of had got word of that. And so I think Parks took that back to Red Bull, and then really honestly helped jumpstart my Red Bull career, because within 5 or 6 months, maybe, like I had a contract, which is crazy because it normally takes like 2 years typically that they like scout people and really make sure they're the one. So there's almost this like added pressure that then pushed Red Bull over the edge to pick me up. So that was, I signed a deal for like 3 years, but like 3 months or something. So I got it right at the end of 2017. I remember actually signing my contract in the Philippines before I went and rode like Cable World Finals, and then like won both the Cable Worlds, and I was like, yeah, word, here's my contract, and I just won both these events. Like, let's go.
I'm worth it, trust me. Is that a physical piece of paper you sign, or is that like an e-document?
That one was, I had to go to Corey Wilson at the WWA and be like, hey, can I borrow your printer? I need to like print something. Like, can we just delete the doc? Anyway, so I printed that one, signed it, and sent it back.
That's got to be pretty sick to print that out,
yeah,
sign it and send it back, or take it back, however that works.
Incredibly fortunate, man, for sure.
It's not, I mean, Red Bull, you were kind of alluding to, is like the top tier, I would say, like energy drink sponsor.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you feel like, from the outside looking in, at least, it looks like Red Bull takes care of all their riders like super well, and it seems that they do a lot of projects, especially internationally, like with Felix and Dom and like a bunch of people. Like they kind of listen to what the riders thinking and are like open to ideas. Do you feel like that's kind of the case with you as well?
Red Bull's given us so many opportunities, whether it's been off the water, like training camps and stuff that, us as, athletes, the word you use, but as a normal human, I would never even think to like go to this realm of, a breath hold camp, like doing meditation and yoga and like weird things like that they bring to us to try to help us evolve as athletes. And so those opportunities are always amazing and like so greatly appreciated. And so that's like kind of the off water stuff, right? The on water stuff is these projects and stuff you talk about. And so, I think that they've shown wakeboarding to the most people by supporting these, outrageous projects and really taking it to further places. So I've kind of yet to have my my moment with them, and I'm really like looking forward to the day that my idea fully clicks. But I've kind of just made up for it with contest results.
You mean like the day when you have like an idea for a video project or a contest idea that it's fully like ready to go kind of in your brain instead of just like some ideas that are kind of floating around?
A little bit, yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Okay. I think with what was it last year, the Red Bull event in Germany, with
Wake Capital.
Wake Capital.
Yep.
Would you want to do something like that? Maybe would that be something that you'd be interested in bringing to the United States? Because I think that would be something that would be huge, for wakeboarding in the United States at least.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of ideas that fly around, and they're always talking about, where can we host the next event? Like, what can we do? And, Wake Capital, those boys put on one hell of a show for us. And, we were able to utilize that course to the fullest. But definitely hosting my own contest or, really focusing on a game-changing video it's always on the brain, There's a time going to come in to do that, but I think sooner or later it's going to happen.
Okay. Yeah. Are there any like you filming for a video part at the current time or anything on the table?
Not at the current moment, but like I said, the gears are always turning, and I think I want to, once we finished X Games, which was 2018, it's a while ago, I've put out a couple little parts I did in the meantime for boat. I did the homemade, tried to focus on the jet ski rail riding and stuff, and so. But I think I'm due for another full length here.
You're definitely due for a banger part.
Yeah,
so whether that's in a movie or it's a Red Bull project or whatever, we definitely we need to see that coming in the pipeline here in the next couple of years for sure.
Good to hear somebody's interested. That's sick.
No, everybody's interested for sure. Let's do a quick power ranking. So 1 to 5, power rank these water sports: wakeboarding, wake foiling, synchronized diving, aqua jogging, and wake surfing. 1 to 5.
Okay, all right. I'd probably go like wakeboarding number 1.
Okay,
wakeboarding number 1, synchronized diving 2, foiling 3.
Gotcha.
Jogging 4, wake surfing 5.
That's how I thought that was going to go there.
Word. Yeah.
Big aqua jogger here.
Is that a sport, dude? Where'd you find that?
Oh, yeah, I got a bunch of different water sports I had to pull up there.
That's epic.
You, in all seriousness, though, you have been diving into foiling quite a bit more in the past few years, it seems like. Give me kind of the why behind that,
You can foil anywhere that there's a body of water. So the accessibility is like accessibility point is like unbelievable. And also it's just been a new way to get on the water. It falls right in line with what I did growing up as a kid and continue to do is like have fun and also get these weird new feelings under your feet. You know what I mean? The feeling of foiling is like unreplicatable. Maybe the closest thing is riding powder on a snowboard, but I don't get that too much anymore being in Florida. So also Liquid Force has been developing their foil program over the past couple of years. So figured it was one more thing for me to kind of get my hands in and just try to help move the process along. And so that's been going really well. And yeah, man, it's just another aspect of water sports that I didn't want to overlook.
Yeah. So do you work on like the design and feedback with Liquid Force on like designing foils and stuff?
Less about the design, more about what happens when we ride the design. So I just have more time on the water and more accessibility and maybe a little bit more skill than the boys actually designing them. So they give me the foil. Hey, I think this, I think that. How can we make the changes for the next shape and then see what happens from there?
Okay. So giving feedback on like, I guess would you give feedback on I don't know a ton about foiling, but like the shape of the foil or like any of the angles and stuff, like
For sure, all of it.
Okay.
Like, and especially, you know, taking like Lift and Armstrong, the main foil brands are really at the forefront. So it's like, okay, what can we kind of take from them and include in our stuff to make it easier? And especially riding all the product back and forth and then going back and saying, okay, yeah, we can make these little adjustments on the winglets here. And then the cord of the wing needs to be pulled in or pushed back, or we need longer fuselages or shorter fuselages. I could nerd out all day long, but
keep nerding out, man.
Have you gotten on the foil?
I've foiled a little bit, dude.
Where at? On the boat or on 2.0 or anything?
I did it at the cable one time when it first, like when Slingshot first, like kind of made their wake foil or whatever you called it back then. It was like I got bucked like right away, obviously. Yeah. But then, you know, I've done it behind the boat a little bit. I wouldn't say I've gotten like a bunch of opportunities to do it.
For sure.
It's fun. Definitely really touchy. But I could see how it's like definitely a different avenue of standing sideways, especially when you're in Florida year round. And, you know, if you wakeboard every day, all day, I could definitely see you getting a little bit of flavor in something that's, you know, highly skilled, like foiling, as opposed to some other sports.
For sure.
On a scale of 1 to golden retriever, how loyal would you say you are?
Golden retriever.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, sweet. Okay, I do want to talk about some contests. Just from a rider's aspect, what contest has given you the best experience, like as a rider? Boat side first.
Boat side. Best experience. So I guess that's an interesting one. Like Masters is a very cool event, I guess. It's just got a rich history. You're there with water skiers, but you're kind of with the elite, I guess, like of what the competitor list is. And it's just like a rad place to compete with a lot of history. One that's given me a lot of experience. I don't know. When we go to Wakefest in Tennessee, that event is all about the people and the community and the vibes, I guess. And so, you know, you get a lot of rough water practice riding there too, but it's just, you know, the experience you get is trying to like re-spread that love of wakeboarding to all the people who made a huge effort to come and watch you ride. Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of a lead up to, you just finished up with the Pro Tour. You got 4th overall. You said third on
the stop 4.
Stop 4.
Yep.
What would what would your ideas kind of be to kind of I don't want to say revamp that, but like what changes would you make, I think, from a rider's perspective of like, hey, you know, I think this is what would make it a little bit more successful, or this is what would make more people pay attention to it?
So I think it's, you know, a big part of it, right, is how do we get eyes on it? So it depends on what you want to count as, you know, what's credible for your views. If it's Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, you know, I think Pro Tour could use more specialized content for all the platforms and trying to have more of a consistent presence on there because they kind of lacked that this year. The content itself is dope. Like we have, you know, you guys had mentioned in a previous episode of, you know, the best way to watch wake, and it really is to watch boat wakeboarding is kind of from a media standpoint, right? If you don't want to sit around the boat event and then watch the person kind of turn into a speck as they get to their last trick, the drone, the in boat stuff is a great way to watch it. So they were pretty close on that. It was just the media output that I think was kind of that missed the mark. In Pro Tour, we're doing like the 2 runs, no falls, and I actually think that's one of the best ways to do it. And then a double up at the end if you make your run.
What do you mean 2 runs, no falls?
So you get 2 attempts at, you know, a down and back and a double up. If you fall at any point, then you're done, and then you drop to your second run. They take your best 1 out of 2.
I do like that as well. I think it makes it a lot more simple.
For sure. Yeah, even, you know, you wouldn't want to see a winning run with somebody falling and then getting picked up. Like, that'd be whack.
That wouldn't happen in any other sport.
Exactly. Yeah. In X Games, you'd be axed. Like, your score would be like a 0, bro. They're so critical, you know? So, there's a conversation always of like, man, do we need to bring rails back, you know? But then it's also like, you really want to watch like some of the top guys who don't have a clue of cable riding or don't ride cable at all try to like work their way across the rail? Like, probably not. It'd be atrocious. You know what I mean? There'd be a few of us who could like really make it steezy and look good, but I don't know if that's really the route to go back to.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's necessarily the goal of a pro wakeboard boat competition. Mm-hmm. I think it sounds like you were going to say something, but I think that the goal would be to have the best pipe riding, super pipe riding or whatever behind the boat.
Yeah, so even like when, you know, I think it'd be kind of interesting to incorporate like re-entries. They obviously have double ups in there as well. You know, you also start to blur the lines of when it's a freestyle sport, do we make it mandatory that you have to do a less than 5 or you have to do a flats trick? You know what I mean? So I think it's still open to interpretation. Really, I think what I would like to see is just a better media output. So something that we can get behind and help try to push it forward and then let the ideas come from there. But also having that balance of like what WakeFest is which is like this amazing in-person event that people come far and wide. And that's a really great viewing area because they're water level. They're all up in it. But, you know, having the alcohol, having the food, having the other attraction, and even just piggybacking off of events. You look at Moomba Masters down in Australia. It's in Melbourne during one of the biggest festivals that the city hosts, like the whole year. Brings like hundreds of thousands of people through, and wakeboarding is just that small part of it. You know, I think that's like all we have room to talk for right now is that we're kind of the small sideshow still of a bigger event, and that's how we're going to get more eyes on it.
Yeah, and I think to that point, I think that's why Munich Mash is like such a successful thing.
Without a doubt.
That's kind of what my mind was going to is like, it's a party, it's a festival. I think they need to bring the mega ramp back, but like,
yeah, dude.
it's this year's setup was a little bit mid, not going to lie. Like, there's a lot of small rails and stuff, but like the point is that it's more than just wakeboarding, and I think that's what a boat contest would need to be as well.
I would have to agree. Absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, it's hard to put our finger on like what is right and what is wrong and like where are we really going to find success, because we could do all the things that we're talking about right now.
It still couldn't work.
And it could still be shit. And so I don't want to jump too far into what my perfect idea might be, because at least publicly, because I don't know if it's really accurate and if it would be the best way. So, but I do think that having the organizers just take more feedback from all the riders and hear what we want, and then how can they balance that with what corporate wants? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's just, we need a better balance that is inclusive of the riders.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And like you said, you might not even have an idea of what perfect is. You could have it in your head right now, what perfect is. But if you implement a couple of these things and like they don't work, well, my idea of perfect's not shot to shit, because my suggestions were not good at all. So
totally.
Yeah, that makes sense though. Kind of taking, it's what's been done in, you know, a lot of other board sports where you take the riders' feedback, because they're smarter than people give them credit for. You know, they kind of know what's going on. I guess I do want to ask the boats or the cable side of that question as well. It sounds like Munich Mash is one of them, but like, are there any other that kind of stand out from like a rider perspective that, you know, are really well done to you?
I'm super fortunate that I was able to be a part of Wake Capital last year. That was like the first and only. Obviously, Wake the City was a really good Red Bull event, but Wake Capital was like, you know, one of those jaw-dropping ones, like kind of Wake a Steel or Wake the Line or Wake Open, things like that. Anyway, you know, they take care of the rider. They help us out, you know, to get there and to put us up, feed us, and make sure that we got everything we need to go shred. And then obviously the setup is like so game changer. And so, you know, MASH, Wake Capital, even LAO, how they make the setup as progressive as possible. Those events are all what I think is pushing the sport in the right direction.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think from a viewer's perspective as well, I know we were kind of talking about the live stream. I think the live stream, in my opinion, is kind of like the future of all this. So I think no matter what event happens, I think you need like a kick-ass live stream. Because,
okay, cool.
Like, I mean, would you agree with that or disagree with that? I mean,
I guess it depends on, like, once again, depends where you want to get your viewership from. Because I feel like even with our community, we're still going to have like relatively low viewership on live feed events for what the effort to make that live feed happen is, right?
Interesting, yeah.
But if you can, I think that now though, the way like making live streams got to be more accessible, even what the PWL and like what the Space Mob Tour did this year. Like I know that's still a high end production, but talking to the guys who do it, that there's more entry level ways to do it. So I think you're right though. Having a live stream event and having a setup or having a format of how the events runs that complements the live stream.
Yeah, huge. I do want to pick your brain on like full size cable contest formats. What, I guess there's traditional and there's features only right now is kind of the big two. What would your ideal, I mean, would you change that at all, or what would your ideal contest format going forward be? Because LAO had a very unique one, and I thought this year was, in my opinion, one of the most entertaining to watch. Wake Duel also was very interesting. Like, what are your thoughts there? I mean, from kind of like a viewer's perspective.
No, I think that they hit the nail on the head. You know what I mean? Even what John did with Worlds, really all three of those events, I feel like were money for a full size event. That's how you keep the pace flowing quickly. Is that you almost start on the backstretch. You know, it's like a glorified rail jam, right? All of it is. So you know, you set up the course to where it starts and finishes kind of in the front row of everything, but also that the other riders loaded right behind them, ready to do their thing. And so to minimize the downtime, I thought that those three events, they killed it. The Lithuania feed was kind of hard to watch with like the double drone footage. I was like kind of tripping out of like where they were doing. And I thought that format was interesting they had like 3 sections.
Yeah.
And you could kind of take one from the other. I don't know if that would be my favorite go-to, but I do think I preferred Langenfeld's, and I've competed in it as well back in 2017. But like the one air trick or kicker, give the option, right? Give the option to showcase your style of wakeboarding, which is in Europe, you know, air tricks is where it's at for sure. And like I've actually had a blast doing them again. It's been pretty fun. But that one run, take your pick for the air tricks and just do it on the full size with another rider right behind you, ready to keep it moving fast. I think that's the way.
Yeah, and I think Wake Duel was cool, but I think like the goal between at least the live feed is for the most part to make it easy for everyone to understand, not the core wakeboarder, which like everyone always gets lost in like, well, what does the core wakeboarder want to see? Well, they're going to be watching it no matter what. So like, let's not worry about them so much. If you can dumb it down super simple, like an X Games slope style snowboard run is super simple to understand. A super pipe run is they're all pretty simple to understand.
Start at the top, end at the bottom.
You start at the top, you end at the bottom, and obviously you do the best stuff on the way down that you can. And like if you fall, well, it's over. If you revert, well, that's huge on your score. So I think that should kind of be the goal, and I think LAO definitely did hit the nail on the head there with having the rider loaded and then doing that, you know, kind of finishing stretch or whatever.
And is that the best way? You know, at the moment, I think
better.
It is. It's definitely better. I think it's way better. And you know, switching that for our nationals as well. Like in the U.S., it was a small turnout, but you know, it was about the media output. Now everybody has these runs that they can go back and watch, and it's not just like a cluster of a jam session that's going down, and you're like, well, who won? What did he do on that hit? Is there a clip of it? Like, do we even know what he did to win the event? You know, like that you kind of get lost in the sauce there. So I think the one run kind of keeps it a little bit more cut and dry too.
100% agree. Is there anything else you want to kind of touch on with contests or anything there?
You know, I think there's a lot of big ideas that are always rolling around, and there isn't the set right or wrong one either. But I just think that the more rider feedback that can be given, the better it's going to be for the riders at least. And when the riders are stoked, that's when you're going to see the best riding. You're going to see everybody sharing it and like wanting to love that event. You know, if like the riders are not stoked, I don't think the event's going to go very far.
Yeah, I think it's very loud when the riders don't like it, even though it seems really quiet. That you know, quietness speaks volumes.
There you go. That's a great way to put it. Great way to put it, dude. Leave it at that.
Question from, well, I guess I'll let you guess who this question's from. Biggest pro and biggest con of being in a relationship with another pro wakeboarder.
Did that question come from Meg?
That did come from Megan. Yeah, it's courtesy of Megan Ethel. So,
man, biggest pro is just the experiences that we get to share together is sick. Like when we go to Italy and we get to compete together, podium, you know, not podium together, but podium at the same time. Like vibes are all time, and we got to have a great trip aside from the wakeboarding part. Like you just get to share this experience with someone that you love a lot. Like that's super dope. Cons, you know, it can get pretty sticky here and there, like pretty tricky of like having some shit rides and the other person rides well, and it's like, bro, could you not just be like rubbing that in my face right now? Or
like competitive vibes, kind of like,
or just like, you know, should we go ride on the lake and stuff? But you know, you're always gonna have like, you know, dating the person that you work so closely with, you're always gonna have a little bit of conflict. So yeah, but wouldn't change it for the world.
Definitely. Have you ever? I talked to Megan about this like 6 months ago when she was at Boat Show. But would you guys ever do like a dual part? Because I think that could be pretty sick.
So not yet. Maybe when our careers really start to deteriorate, we'll try to join forces.
There you go.
You know, really power ourselves back together. But no, I think it'd be sick though. I think we actually have kind of like underutilized the skill set there and like the relationship to build a part or something.
I think if you do it in the right way, like it definitely could be kind of kooky. But if you did the right way, I think it'd be sick
for sure. I agree. Yeah, maybe in the future.
That would be sick. I don't have a whole lot left here. I mean, is there anything else you wanna chop it up about? Anything else you want to talk about?
I don't know, man. I'm enjoying wakeboarding so much right now, and like the current state of it. I think a lot of it as well is like there's so much like negativity that gets brought up, and I guess for the organizers and people who see that, I don't ever want it to come across as like super negative, just of like, where can we make this better? Because we have an amazing sport and an amazing opportunity at all of our fingertips. And it's like, how can we really push it and make it next level? Because you know how fun it is. I know how fun it is, but it's sharing that fun with everybody else and like letting them know how rad it is. And I think how inviting of a community it is, you know, like you watch people, like even I go surf and I'm like off to the side, not in the main lineup. Cause like, I'm not trying to get heckled or anything, or like, I always get intimidated. I suck at skating, but like rolling up to a skate park, I feel like wakeboarding is like one of the most inviting sports ever. So, you know, how do we get the people back, like just get them into it still and keep them stoked?
Yeah. I mean, do you have any like huge ideas when it comes to that side of things?
I definitely think that like, you know, we do the clinics and we do, you know, going out and like the passing handles. And I think that there's a lot, like I really enjoyed listening to Dan's podcast, like of his idea of bringing people into the sport. And so, being in Florida, I think we do fall into that like bubble of being kind of like closed off, and we're like so close to the sport that we forget like what it was like and to bring people in again. So I think that, you know, I do think that like wake parks are that area to like bring more people in, and especially at like ODUB or something. But maybe there needs to be a better segue of like, it's not just like that one-stop shop where they have that one-time experience at ODUB, you know, but it's like, how do we hook them in and bring them back? Maybe it is like having us come and ride with them and showing them the ropes and teaching them how to hit rails or something. And, you know, I think Nona does a really good job here in Orlando of like building that community with the grassroots events like once a month and stuff, to where, you know, it gives these kids something to like really look forward to and like latch on to, like, oh, like, you know, little Johnny beat me last month, but I'm working really hard to get my heel 5 so I can get him this next time and stuff like that. So I think there's, you know, there's paths that are laid down, and it's just like, how do we make more of them and bring them forward?
Yeah, definitely. Do you feel like kind of in Orlando, it's like a little pro wakeboard circle? I
Definitely.
mean, which obviously it's going to be, it's the place to be. It's, you know, where wakeboarding is. I guess for all the pro riders that are here, is there anything that you could see as like a collective effort from everyone that's like a pro wakeboarder here, whether they're behind the boat or at the cable, that like you see as something that's not sticking out like a sore thumb, but like you were kind of saying, you know, either going to the cable and, you know, helping people learn tricks or like have people behind your boat? Is there anything that like you're kind of seeing on a day-to-day basis where you're like, oh man, you know, I wish that like all the pro riders here were kind of doing that?
I think that it will take place less in Orlando, of that we have, you know, we've developed our skill sets on and off the water, whether it's like driving boats, coaching to the cable. So it's almost taking what all of us as pro riders have like learned in Orlando and taking that elsewhere and
traveling,
sharing, spreading that knowledge and that information and that love like to places that don't really know what they're doing, I guess. And so kind of coming correct with them and showing them, like, not necessarily the right way, but like a really good way to do it, you know. But I don't know if that's going to happen in Orlando.
I agree with that. And kind of what I was getting at is maybe not staying in Orlando. Like, I think there's so many lakes just in America where wakeboarding is pretty much dead now because wake surfing's taken over. But I think if people just need to like realize that wakeboarding is still fucking cool and it's super fun to do.
For sure.
Like, but no one's doing it on their lake, so they don't know that it's cool because you know what I mean?
I mean, I'll shout out Malibu for doing the Just Ride tour. Like, we take that rig all the way around America to all the dealers, and so it's bringing these people out who either have just bought boats or are trying to look at a boat, but it's like, hey, this is wakeboarding, this is wake surfing, but it's all dope and it's like inviting. So come on in and like, let's have some fun with it, you know. But definitely, you know, we want to be pushing. I push wakeboarding every time we go out, right? Like, you can wake surf, but wakeboarding's like way more fun. Like, come on, let's go. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think wake surfing might have hit its peak. Now we might be coming down the mountain, hopefully, at least a little bit.
Intriguing to see where you know the industry decides to shuffle itself in the next little bit.
Yeah, definitely will be interesting to see. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Anything else you want to get off your mind here?
I don't know, man. We covered a fair bit.
We definitely did
some good questions and stuff in there, and I you know, I don't know. Just I gotta a fun history, something that I'm really proud of and really stoked on, and I hope to just keep on continuing it. And I know that there's a young generation hot on my heels already overtaking me, like to continue to push the sport forward. So I'm just stoked that there's people there that are down to do it and want to do it.
You think you could beat Trent in a cable competition?
I mean, he just proved to me that I kind of couldn't, so I don't know. I'm going to keep trying, though, for sure.
Kid's nuts, man.
So good. Yeah, it's awesome.
Sick. I mean, is there anyone you want to thank? Parents, obviously.
Yeah, mom and dad, for sure, and they're the ones who got me started. They brought me to the dance, so always really appreciative of that. And obviously, Megan's my right-hand gal, my number one, so couldn't do it without her. And then LF, O'Neill, Red Bull, and Axis have been so supportive of me over the past couple of years, and legitimately could not do it without them. And everyone who's helped me along the way. There's too many to list, but they know who they are. So yeah.
Sick, dude. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
We definitely ran this one pretty good. I'm pretty stoked on it. I appreciate you letting me come down here and set up a bunch of cameras in your house. Thanks, Megan, wherever you are, and the cat running around somewhere. But thanks everyone for watching, listening, tuning in. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, rate, 5 stars, all that shit.
All the things.
Because I keep forgetting to say that. So, yeah, thanks, guys. Later.